Hello, everybody, and I hope you guys are all fine, doing great. I am too doing great, and today we're here with Kurt Kruger again. He's an awesome guy, he's a polymath. So, yeah, and so here we are discussing a very important topic, which is the cycles of nature versus linear time, right? First, let's get started with the introduction of Sir Kurt, and then we'll continue with the topic, okay? So, please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Kurt Kruger, and I'm the founder of the Institute of Sports Psychology and Success Systems International. I've been an educator on 5 continents uh, and a polymath. Now, some people wouldn't know what a polymath is, but that's somebody who knows a lot about um, a lot. And it allows a person to be able to use what, as we said, the system of life, the linear time as opposed to the circular time as opposed to the linear time. We're inclusive instead of exclusive. We use anything and everything to achieve what's going to work for life. We've done that with the Institute of Sports Psychology. It was mainly focused on body, mind, spirit, and emotions to deal with that. But there's also something that makes it so you can actually be a peak performer in life beyond just this little body and what we put into it or whatever. For instance, everybody breathes. I don't know exactly why we allow pollution. Air pollution pollutes what? Everybody's lungs. So we get to be able to look at life in a more inclusive way and see what we can do to make the air better, the water pure again, because when I was young, 94,000 years ago, I was raised in San Fernando, this little town that was way on the northern part of Los Angeles, California. We had well water. The neighboring towns didn't. They had what we called pipe water, LA water. They had it all the way from the Sierra Nevadas, the big mountains in California. They're the tallest mountains in the contiguous United States. We get to be able to find out what really works for our life to make it thrive rather than just survive. Who's into just survival? It seems like so many people are because we watch TV. If we watch the news, you're going to be depressed. So instead of being depressed, what do we get to do? We get to be able to be doing what we can do to make it so that we thrive. And if we thrive, people around us thrive. It's like a human cell. This is all part of the cycle of life, by the way. I'm actually starting the talk and so on. Plenty of introduction.
Mm-hmm.
The cycle of life is so amazing that the human cell, when it's got a neighbor that's sick, isn't thriving, it helps the neighbors. Because tit for a tat, maybe. In India, they call it the law of karma. So what you give is what you get. So Allah always taught us to be able to give good from our heart. And when we give good from our heart, we can't lose anything. There's no way that things won't thrive. So instead of surviving, we get to thrive. Are there any questions yet?
Okay. So, let's start from like the real beginning, because I am not like I do not have much knowledge about this topic, like anyway. So that's why you're here. And okay, so let's start from like the real beginning. What do you think is like the cycle of nature to you? What do you think that is? It's something nature,
Well,
natural.
basically, the cycle of nature is birth, life, and growing, and then dying. Dying, big deal. It happens. Everything dies. The planets die, the stars die. But people have a fear of dying because it's been instilled in our traditions of, sometimes it's the cultural tradition, sometimes it's the spiritual tradition. It's a real issue that when we look at nature and we get guided by nature, which God created, Allah created this,
Mm-hmm.
we get to learn from it and how to be able to thrive the best we can while we're here. So it's like you leave a legacy. Everything leaves a legacy of some sort. Somebody remembered me from being a teacher when they were in 7th grade, which is like for 13-year-olds. I've taught university and beyond and so on. But they may remember me and they may have used some of the things that I taught them. And then they pass it on to people, their family, and so on, because there's an incredible book for parenting.
Mm-hmm.
When you parent, you are able to raise these plants, these wonderful human beings, into thrivers, people that have the values of the Quran, the values of the Bible, the values of the Tao Te Ching, and so on. All the living values are present in every culture. We all want the best for our children. We want them to grow and to be healthy. And wealthy is much different than rich. When you are wealthy, you get to be able to not necessarily have a bunch of things. You have total contentment and happiness, and you are able to survive with what you are given. You are able to be able to make life better with what you've been given. So some people are given very, very little. But when I was living in the village in India, it's called Ganeshpuri. It's about 50 miles out of Mumbai. It had hot springs around and so on. A beautiful little quintessential little village. People would roll with a stick. They would roll not a tire, just the a round thing that they would be able to run after and just have a good time with it, smiling and having a great time with nothing. Here, you see people in the supermarket, if you get to go to the supermarket, and they have their little pads. The little kids have little pads, and they're only looking there. They're not looking around, wondering what is around in life. They're carried in, possibly, or they're in a stroller and they're on their little iPad or whatever it might be. Their eyes are going to go bad. The vision will only see so far because it's used to seeing only so far. They won't be able to see the grandeur of creation. It will atrophy, so to speak, just like muscles. I had surgery on my back, 4 discs replaced and 4 vertebrae fused almost a year ago. I still don't walk well because of it. I lost 1 inch of height because of it. But that's the way it is. I use what I have now to the best that I've been given. I can still do these kind of trainings that people can get information and apply it into their life. So when, like right now, the most important thing about life is the heart. Because in the heart, love comes from. And when we tap into love, it brings us peace. When we tap into peace, it brings us happiness, it brings us contentment, it brings us values like you're going to be, if the only way you can be peaceful is to be able to be nice to people. When you see somebody else that's hurting and you help them, you automatically feel good. You don't have to get a reward or say, hey, look what she did. You get to be able to thrive, and the other person gets to thrive. Like some people are so poor that they have to beg. They stick out their hand, they show that they have no arm or whatever it might be, and give a little bit of money to them. No matter if they're like here in America, there's so many people homeless. I always give some money to people who are homeless. Why? People say, don't give it to them. They're going to go drink or they're going to buy drugs. Well, Allah gave us free will. We can commit sins or we can do good things. We can do what it is our heart says, and we will thrive. When we do just this, hey, I got mine, it doesn't survive. Humanity almost never came into existence. Now imagine this. There was like one tribe left of these just Homo sapiens, not Homo sapiens sapiens. And they were, all the other ones had died. The reason that particular tribe was able to survive, they all cooperated and helped everybody. So if there was somebody that broke their leg, they helped them. This is proven archaeologically. They helped whoever needed the help. They cooperated, they collaborated. And when we collaborate rather than I'm going to get you mine and you're not going to get it, and so on. It's like the beautiful story of Ubuntu. I don't know if you know Ubuntu, but Ubuntu means basically what is good for you is good for me. An anthropologist was in Africa, in the bush of Africa, and he got into this little tribe, and he decided to put some sweets about 20 yards away from where all these kids were. A whole bunch of kids, and he's talking with them, and he says, you know what I did? I put all these sweets across this field. They're scattered across this field. Whoever gets there first gets as much as they want. The kids all got up, grabbed hands, and walked together and shared it all. That is Ubuntu. It is so beautiful. And that's how life thrives. They're in the southern Utah, eastern Utah, is an aspen forest. Aspens have gold leaves in the fall. They're beautiful. It's like gold shimmering in the late summer and the early fall. And the white bark of these trees. But this whole forest has one interconnected root system. They're all interconnected. So 100 miles away, if there's an area that has not gotten much rain at all or not at all, the root system where it has plenty of water, they transmit that energy, that water, that fuel for that part of the forest to be able to still grow so that the whole forest thrives. The only reason it may not is when humanity gets in there and humanity starts to do their cutting and so on and so forth. We can do regenerative agriculture, regenerative gardening. When we do that, we don't have to till the soil. And it's so much better for the soil. It makes the topsoil, the best nutritious part for the plants, deeper and deeper and deeper. That's what nature does. When we copy nature, we have a thriving planet. In the 1950s, when I was a teenager, I was only like 12 years old, just like when I first met you. I wrote a letter to the mayor of Los Angeles. And I wrote him and I said, look, it's a total waste to be able to let all this garbage be taken away when it can be used to create compost and fuel the Central Valley of California with all this beautiful natural compost that Mother Nature would make, basically, but we can make it in her, modeling after her. We then send it up to the Central Valley, selling it to them, not at a big price, but at a fair price. And that money could help pay for the pickup, the extra pickup, because one is trash and one is compost. Now in Los Angeles, they do that. But it was insane 40 years ago, 50 years ago. We could have been doing it. The topsoil in Central California is down to inches. The topsoil in America at one time was like 12 to 20 feet. Holy cow. Well, we're not in India. I'm sorry. It's not holy cows. uh, so that's a quick description. Any questions about what I've said so far?
No, not really. And I just see that we all like do die. I mean, now I see that it's not just humans, but it's also animals, and it's like everything. Even trends, fashion trends, they die.
The fear is the thing that kills you faster. And when you spread fear, you're stressing your body. You're making it so your immune system is depleted. So if you ever have fear or anger, get rid of it as soon as you can. It's like a hot plate and you grab it with your hands off the stove. You drop it. You don't want it. But people hold on to this fear or this anger because they deserve it. Well, but do you deserve to suffer? That's why I taught stress management. That's also part of our program with Success Systems International and the Institute of Sports Psychology. We had 5 offices on 4 continents of the Institute of Sports Psychology. And we founded it actually in Bombay in 1982. And I've been teaching, like I sent you something on Joe Dispenza, a real quick description about the placebo effect, the power of the mind. I'll give you a different example than he sort of gave. When people receive a placebo, they think that it's the real thing and it's going to work. Now, Joe described, like I did in the 80s and so on, Joe described that it actually causes the body to produce these particular antibodies if it's necessary, or whatever it might be that particular drug is supposed to do. And you get a good result. You get oftentimes, about 81% of the time, you get about the same result as if you took that particular drug or so. Well, the keynote speaker at the Olympic Scientific Congress in nutrition was Dr. Michael Colgan. He was from New Zealand. And he comes up to make this presentation because every Summer Olympics, there's always the Olympic Scientific Congress, the most prestigious sports sciences conference in the world. I was making my first presentation at that. And I've always taught about nutrition and eating particular foods and not eating other kinds of foods, because you want as live a food as you can to fuel your body because it is alive. You want as close to the source of God, so to speak, as creation, as you can. So he gives his talk and he showed that down in New Zealand, that with athletes that were given a particular supplements in tablet form or capsule form, and we're told this is going to get you to have better endurance and strength and so on, and it's so good for you, your mind can work better, whatever, all these things about these great nutrients. The placebo effect increased 27%. It had good results for, actually it was more than that, but 20% better improvement in performance. That meant on strength and endurance. But with the real nutrients, they had up to 50% more endurance and strength. 50% with the proper nutrients. So when you do actually fuel it, it works even better. And for me, I don't use any unnatural drugs. The day of my second day of surgery, it was a 2-day surgery on my back, I stopped all the narcotics. I used a hemp oil that uses nanotechnology to get 100% into the body. So into your blood, you get 100% of this cannabidiols, the CBD. That's the curative part of hemp. There's only 0.3% of THC. THC is the one thing that would get you stoned, as they say in the old days. It would get you high. I don't need to be high that way because I meditate every day. You get so ecstatic in meditation, like no other drug that you could imagine, when you get into the deeper and deeper states of meditation. So that's a little bit about the placebo and the power of the mind. It is so powerful. The only picture in my book called Winning Ways for Living is a picture of a man lifting over 7,000 pounds off a standard. He lifted it up about that far off the standard, huge rack of weights, and he did it 3 out of 5 times. What can't you do? They've had incidences everywhere in the world where a mother sees a child underneath a car. She literally picks up the car, maybe with both hands, but she actually has to get the kid out. So she holds the car with one hand and pulls the child out with the other. How does that happen? People say, oh, the endorphins are going and the adrenaline makes it happen. Oh, really? If that can happen because of that, what can't we do when we decide to let that adrenaline flow, or we don't even have to be fearful? Now, what happens with the woman when she does that? Is she thinking she can't do it? Or is she not thinking? She's only using the force. With that force, the key, they say in China, the key in Japan, and chi in China, and so on. In India, they call it the Shakti. I'm not sure what it is in Urdu, how you would say what Star Wars says is the Force, but you know what it is and know what I'm talking about. So, yes.
Yeah.
And you have a little question.
Okay, so I still do not understand about why people have a fear of dying. I mean, man, we already know that we're gonna die. So you're afraid of something that you have no idea is gonna happen, or you have you don't know what's gonna happen. But when you know something's gonna happen, why you're scared of it?
That's a good question. Our society instills it in us. It's not a natural fear. If you look at all the indigenous people in the world, the ones that are supposedly, quote, primitive, and we're so advanced, that's why we pollute and they don't. They do not have any fear of dying. I'll give you another example from a beautiful book that I read about 20 or maybe 25 years ago. It's called The Continuum Concept. An anthropologist was down in the Orinoco River area of Colombia, and she's up in this place, and she's traveling from this one village to another village by way of canoe and by portaging the canoe, because sometimes there's these big places you have to get out of your off the river and then carry this big dugout canoe. There's 12 people. It's so big, it's like 12 people in one line of people. And here's the dugout canoe, and everybody's carrying it. And there was times when people would lose their footing and fall against the rocks of this hill that they're going through. And the rocks were so hot that they would literally burn their back. And the natives, when they did that, once they got back up and were walking, they'd start joking and laughing and so on. Whereas the Westerners, these advanced people, were fearing having this happen again. And when they were going to come back from that place that they went to, before they even got close to the place, they were in fear. They're upset, and that way they maybe stumble a little bit here or there. They cause more problem because they're tense. So the natives are not tense. Once something is done, it's done. The time thing that we human beings have created started out with circular time, because that's the cycle of nature. It keeps on going around and keeps on going around. It's a never-ending story. Okay. Whereas linear time, that's like the watch that most people have on. It's not round anymore. It just says 11:11. Oh, that's auspicious. Oh man, that's special. I knew it. It's a good day. And I saw it. Well, a numerologist may be excited about that. But before digital watches, did anybody get excited about 1111? Well, you may not know it because all you know is digital watches. So
Yeah.
that's one of the, and also we did create time. Before we created time, measuring little details, seconds even, we were only in the present. We were only here now. We were not thinking about the future so much. We were not thinking about the past because that's gone. Can't do anything about it. You already stumbled there, or you did that. Oh, shoot, I did it again. Never say, oh, shoot, I did it again. Always say, I get to remember to walk more carefully. Say you get to, and you get to walk more carefully, or you get to be, let's say you always forget something. I always forget to be able to put this in my tea or something. Speaking of tea. Instead of saying that, say, why do I always remember to put this in? Because there's times when you do put it in. There's times when you do. But when you don't and you say, oh, shoot, you're embedding that thing. It's like when a teacher says, don't forget. The only real word you hear is forget. The don't doesn't resonate in the computer brain. So when you say remember, it uses the same number of letters as don't forget. Yet, what happens? You start to remember more because it's connecting up the brain. That's why it's called remember. You bring the members together again. And this opens up more of your learning centers in your brain so that you can absorb the knowledge better, so that you actually practice what you're talking about, because the word is made flesh. The word is very powerful. You think about it, if somebody says, oh, you got funny eyes. How do you feel?
Not so good.
Yeah. So praising people uplifts them. Their natural blood sugar count goes up. Imagine that. Your blood sugar count goes up. You're producing more neuroendorphins, these brain opiates that make you feel good because somebody just praised you. Simple as that. You can lift people up just even by the human touch, not these days, unless you're in a family situation. But when you touch a person, they can be healed and calmed down and mellowed out easier. There's something called touch therapy with doctors and nurses. And people are using it more and more in the hospitals. They find it gets people to heal faster, to be able to get out of the hospital faster, and so on. Simple, human, hearty touch, not just touching like, your ball of wax. So we have nothing to fear but fear itself. That's what Franklin Roosevelt said. And that was such an amazing truth. But look at what, like our president is throwing fear at everybody. Well, our elections aren't going to be good. Well, we haven't even had them. He's making it so he's following what Putin wants to do. Putin wants to be able to get involved with our elections. Well, he's got Trump telling everybody they're going to be fake elections. They made all these ballots. Who's they? If you know that they're doing it, stop them. He has no proof. There's not a single word of proof, just like most of the facts that he comes up with are not facts. He says we're going to get no problem very shortly with this COVID. You don't have to wear masks. Not my people. Nobody wore masks. What happened? They got more COVID because of their contact with all these people because they didn't wear masks. Even in his White House, it happened. He doesn't get close to people now because he found out what was really true instead of what some of the people on different places tell him. There's a lot of fake news. There's no fake news ever communicated to you when you tune into your heart and the truth, when you look at Mother Nature, when you use that as a guide, when you use what God gave us, that heart that actually sends more messages to your brain than the brain sends to the heart. The heart has neurons. Neurons are brain cells, but they're in the heart. There's a reason we come from the heart. Everybody hears us. We come from our head. I give you facts. All these facts you forget, but you can look them up because we have computers. That's why education gets to be able to have us teach basically to tune in to the intuition, to the intelligence that's within us, to the in all of that inwardness. That's what gets us to know what is really true. So when we hear somebody who's been doing the practices, speaking the truth as well as walking the truth, it comes across so much more powerfully. So every day you get to be able to do a simple practice. Should we teach us how to stop having so many negative thoughts like fear of death?
Yeah.
As soon as you have a fear or anger, you can do a couple quick things. When you get to, let's say somebody cuts you off on the road or almost runs you over on the street or something because you weren't paying attention to the crazy cars, you're going to get angry and yell at them. And as soon as you catch yourself getting angry, start to thump your thymus.
That was kind of unexpected.
Overproduction of adrenaline. Now, where's your thymus? And what the heck is it? Take your hand at the base of your throat.
Mm-hmm.
Put your other finger right in the center of your chest at the base of that hand. And then take your hand away. About 2 inches beneath your chest is your thymus gland. It's part of your endocrine system. And that's the modulator of your whole production of adrenaline. So it'll calm the overproduction of adrenaline because you can't run after them. Well, you could. You can't do anything about the anger except get it stopped. Then you take a few deep breaths after you've done that. Now, it has to be firm because you have to sort of stimulate the thymus to get active, to stop the overproduction of adrenaline. Once it calms that down, then you take a few deep and complete breaths, making sure you exhale completely. It's an important thing. And most people don't exhale completely. And that's getting rid of the bad air, and in goes the good air. All the bad air has to go out. It's a way to count when you're giving somebody artificial respiration. You are able to mellow out because the breath, when it slows down the heart rate, slows down the brain waves. Then immediately after that, or even while you are doing the breathing inwardly, you can actually do something that is so much better than cursing and yelling bad things. It's to bless the person or the thing. Let's say you stubbed your toe. Instead of saying, damn it, or whatever, you say, bless it. When my grandfather, he was a carpenter. If he hit his thumb with the hammer, which didn't happen very often, because if you're a carpenter, you can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
He would say, bless it. He didn't say, damn it, like so many people do. He
Yeah.
said, bless it. Why? He wanted it to get better, not to get worse. So that's another thing that we can do. That person needs blessing. That person gets to get better. When that person is better because I bless them, life is better. There's a man named Pierre Predervand in Geneva. He's a wonderful soul. He's a little bit older than me. I know it's hard to imagine somebody over 94,000 years old, but he started a practice walking the streets of Geneva. And he would inwardly blessings of light and love to that person, or blessings of health and wealth to that person. He would say blessings of this or that, whatever he was inspired to say. And he started to do it more and more as he's walking the streets of Geneva, because it got to be a good habit. And one time he looks down to a person sitting on the side of the street and blesses him. The guy jumps up and knocks him out. He's lying on the ground for maybe 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. He doesn't know, because by the time he comes to, he gets up and the guy's gone. And he starts walking home, and he's thinking he's going to see a big black and blue mark on his cheek. When he gets home, there's nothing. He blesses the guy even though he's gone. He experiences this, and it's magical. So when we bless things, things get better, even us.
That is so true.
Yeah, Pierre Predervand, you can actually, let me say this, so people can look at it. There's a short and a longer version of a talk that he gave on YouTube. Look up Pierre Predervand, or The Gentle Art of Blessing. Okay? And if you want, I'll send you a PDF file, and you can send it out to anybody who requests it. It's about that particular story, as well as how to do it and so on, and why it works. And
great, I got the book.
Pardon?
Oh, I've actually seen this book. And I've seen this person as well somewhere.
Oh, he's so nice. One of my good friends, he had a publishing company, and he published Pierre's book first, and then he sold it to Simon and Schuster. So Simon and Schuster had it and made more money, obviously. But he always did this with uplifting authors. But that's how he made his living. He was a great, great-hearted man.
And he also looks a lot like you, by the way.
Well, that's an honor to be able to look like him.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you have to say? Because of course, as time goes by, we all want to look young. I know why, but we all want to look like young, and now a lot of people are using anti-aging things. Or I've literally seen people let snails on their face to look young. That is bizarre, okay? And I don't know how, but it does go by, the fear of death, that, if you look more older, then people would know that we are going to die. And a lot of people are getting that. And, we have examples now. In the recent years, we have had a lot of people under the age of 30. Anti-aging is a product usually used by somebody over 30 years old, which even shouldn't be there, but never mind. And is now, eye creams are being used by 18-year-olds, and 18-year-olds are endorsing eye creams, which is like bizarre, right? So what do you have to say about anti-aging?
I'm really happy to have the wrinkles on this face. This again is a sociological issue, and it's also big time. The biggest issue of it is this: making money. It's a way to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get old. Again, putting that fear in you for looking like this. What's wrong with looking like this? Well, it happens to be what I got because I'm a different flower. Does anybody did God put anti-aging cream on any of these plants, these beautiful flowers? Did he put anti-aging things on the butterflies? Try to think more like God. When you think more like God, what happens? We start to act a little bit more like God. Does God have fear?
Yeah.
I don't think so. So we can begin to walk the talk of truth, walk the talk of having what we need so others will have what they need. Because if I have a huge mansion or 5 mansions or this huge yacht, do I need that? When all these people in different places of the world are starving, and my brothers and sisters in these countries, what is it that we need? There's a group of people, they're called minimalists. They
Uh-huh.
use the minimum of this, they live in the minimum amount of space. For me, every summer when I was living in Santa Monica, actually near Santa Monica, California, my wife and I would go out and live in a big tent in our backyard because the tent breathes. The tent is more natural, and you're not living in a encased uh, structure that has all kinds of chemicals in it, for one thing. And we would stay out there from spring to fall. And then when it was going to start the rainy season, we moved back in the house. But it was so much more natural and nice. And we could easily, for me, I'd be happy in a simple tent myself. I love going backpacking. I love going out into nature. You feel Mother Earth. Imagine having your feet bare on Mother Earth, feeling that vibration of her. Now, you may not be so sensitive that you feel her vibration, these megahertz or less, whatever. But she actually, when you're like, I used to be a beach bum. I'd go down and play beach ball and surf and chat up the ladies and all that kind of craziness. And I was laying at the beach all the time. I'm feeling the vibration of Mother Earth all day. And you could play all day and you could lie around and you could be so active. When people do that, every cell in your body starts to vibrate the same vibration as Mother Earth. It becomes resonant, so it works better. There's something called grounding. Like we have a special sheet in our bed that is actually connected to Mother Earth, that it carries that vibration into our bed so that when we lie on this sheet, the legs at least are absorbing this vibration, and they pass it on to the rest of our body. And it's a slow but sure thing. There's all kinds of things we can do. But again, that's a thing instead of going out into Mother Nature and getting barefoot.
Yeah. And so now we are coming towards the end of our session, and it was a great and very informative session. And actually it's very interesting how we just planned it like yesterday. We didn't even plan it. We're like, let's do something, and then I'm like, let's do it on aging. And then he's like, yeah, and he gave it a name, and we're like, okay, let's do it. 7 a.m. your time and 7 p.m. my time, and we were good to go.
The thing is, we get to have fun doing what we do. We love doing what we do, and we can do this all day, just about.
Yeah. Actually,
I'm a caretaker of my wife right now because she's tested positive for COVID. So she's in our master bedroom, and I'm in one of the boys' bedrooms because he's off in a quarantine hotel because he also has COVID and tested positive. My youngest son just got back from being quarantined, and he's going to leave for university tomorrow. And so things are a little bit crazy in the house. Doesn't mean I have to be crazy. There's a lot of different things happening, and people are saying, "Oh, this is horrible. It only happens every 100 years." Well, great. We get to tell great stories to our kids, to our grandkids, and to our, all of that. It's a different experience, and everybody lives through a different experience in their time on the planet. So we get to be able to leave a good residue. We get to leave what we've done because we do good things and allow good things to flourish. Well, thank you, Raheen. So it's such a pleasure to be with you.
It is for me too. And that's actually how the topic came, because, we basically, you texted me, and then you also told me about your son, your youngest one going away to university now. And again, of course, being a parent, it is, all those times that you have, cared for that plant, that can do a lot of different things now. And, and it's going away. It is sad, but that is for the greater good. And I was like, and I texted him, of course, it's kind of like a sweet and sour chicken. Sweet and it's also sour, sour things sometimes they're not liked by most people, and sweet alone, they're just too sweet and everybody likes them. So when you mix them both together, it's still really good. And like a lot of people like sweet and sour chicken, right? Me too. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Oh, so yeah. And I was like, this also reminds you that you're like you're like 94,000 years old. Yeah. So yeah, that is, I was like, aging, that's the thing. Let's do that.
Well, we made a big thing about being teenagers here in America.
Uh-huh.
They go through this particular phase and they're like this and all that. Kids are like that because they're basically conditioned to be like that. When you get into cultures that don't do that, they don't have this teenage syndrome. They don't have this kind of craziness. But it depends on your culture and what you are given. So we can choose the kind of culture that we pass on. For instance, we did water birthing with our boys. Both boys were born underwater. Igor Cherkovsky, the Russian water birther, he's the famous one that pretty much made it famous. He was one of the midwives at our birth. He wasn't legal in America to be a midwife, so we had another midwife, an Israeli midwife. We gave birth in the jacuzzi with Keith, our eldest one, who's now 26, turning 27 this next month. And Narayan, who's turning 24 this next month, and the 4th. He was born in the backyard in an inflated pool, and I got to be able to reach forward and take my little boy out of my beautiful wife, and to be able to have just joy. We had family around. Our closest, dearest friends could be there present, and to be able to experience the birth of life, just like you can see the experience of the birth of death. My great teacher, Muktananda, I sat with him for 3 days after he had passed on. I got to be able to sit with him for 3 days after he had passed on. All I was doing was praying. I got to be able to pray and be present. Now, when the doctor and the Brahmin came to be able to, what they did is they laid him over and they disemboweled him. They took his intestines out and so on. They put in some embalming fluid, which made it, and he wasn't there. His energy was still in that body for 3 days. You could feel the energy. But when they did that, it was like he was gone. And it was a fascinating experience. I got to be present when my father passed on. It's a beautiful experience you literally know that spirit leaves at that time.
Yeah. And it's just so beautiful that, many people call it passed away, not passed on.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful that they say, when your father passed on, or when your great teacher passed on, not passed away, they passed on, they moved on to the other life,
Yeah.
the life after death.
Yeah. Yeah. And we, truly speaking, people don't know what it is that we're going to after death. There's all kinds of ideas about it, but where's the proof? Except like reading the Quran and believing it's true. But in regard to science, there's no real proof of any of what is said in any of those books. Maybe because science can never, ever prove that.
Yeah.
Who cares? We get to be able to experience what we get now, just like we experienced coming through the birth channel. It was just a different stage in life. And stages is a better use of words instead of levels, because everybody's at the same level of life. We're all living. We're all part of this cosmos. Pythagoras started that word. He's one of my favorite philosophers, and also I was never good at math, but he's also a great mathematician, of course. But thank you so much for your chit chat today.
It was so fun. And in fact, I would love to do this again, with another topic and another day. And it's also like so fun. I even felt like maybe we should do a series, like, I know, like a cool name, and like we give it a cool name and we do like a series of talks where we kind of just talk.
Well, I could do, let's say, one on one little practice that we have in the field of peak performance. And that way people get a lot more depth of the understanding of it, as well as getting the experience of it. So I showed you this and so on, and there's more things that we can learn. Like I've given the roller coaster fingers as a practice for meditation. There's a lot more things that we can discuss. So it'll be fun to do. And I'm not sure how much of a listening audience that we have, but we'll engender it to get bigger and better, so that everybody gets to pass that on, because it can be on YouTube or whatever channel, or you can stream it here or there, and everybody can pass it on. And if they want to get in touch with me, it's successsystemsinternational.net, and contact me through there and ask me for what you need, and we'll see what we can do. So
amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much, everybody, for commenting. And inshallah, we'll also come again with another beautiful topic and another beautiful day.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.